Welcome to YogaU. I'm Natasha Rizopoulos, and this is a tutorial on Vashistasana. Now, Vashistasana is one of my favorite arm balances, both to practice and to teach, because I feel like it so beautifully illuminates one of the key elements of a successful arm balance practice, which is to think of the pose in terms of other more familiar and perhaps more accessible poses, and to teach those poses first, or to practice them first, so you can translate the actions from those poses into the peak, into the arm balance, whatever it is. So for Vashistasana, we're going to explore utthita trikonasana and utthita hasta padangustasana before heading into it. And there are a couple of key actions in these poses that we'll revisit with Vashi. Begin with your feet nice and wide as if you were going to head into prasarita padottanasana. Then from deep in your hip socket, externally rotate your right thigh. Pivot your left heel back. Kristen doesn't use a block in utthita trikonasana, but if you do, feel free to. Now, before we go anywhere, notice, and she's just corrected it, how when we go from that prasarita symmetrical setup to this asymmetrical setup, the pelvis spills to the right. When the pelvis spills to the right, you end up sitting in the left outer hip. Anatomically, what's happening is that you're stretching, not engaging, the outer hip gluteus medius. Gluteus medius will play a big role in Vashistasana. So instead, engage the left outer hip, firm the hip into the midline. Activate your quadriceps. Inhale, spread your arms apart. As you exhale, reach out and up to the right. Come into utthita trikonasana without sitting in the left outer hip. From the right hand to the left, a straight line of energy. These are our Vashistasana arms. Make sure that the top arm is not falling behind you. It's very common to turn both Triko and Vashi into a back bend, and we want an absolutely straight line of energy from the right hand to the left. Now notice, as we stay here, are you starting to sit in the left outer hip? If you have done that, you may also notice that a lot of the weight of the left foot has gone into the outer ankle and the outer border of the foot. Instead, press down with your left big toe mound. Take one more cycle of breath here. Firm the right buttock forward and under. Press the top of the left thigh back to find the external rotation in the right thigh. And then with your next inhale, come up to standing. Parallel your feet. And step or hop your feet together, coming to Tadasana. In Tadasana, feel the two sides of the waist equally long. Root down through your big toe mounds, pull up with your inner arches. If you use a strap in utthita hasta padangustasana, feel free to use one now. Bend your knee, hook onto the right big toe with the first two fingers of each hand. Now push the left thigh bone back, leg is active. Firm the left outer hip into the midline. Without losing either of those elements, inhale, take the right foot forward. As you do, drop the right sitting bone towards the left heel, but keep the left outer hip firming in. Root down with your left big toe mound to find that. With your next inhale, open the right leg to the right. Take the left arm out to the side just so you can really feel how much this is like utthita trikonasana. Gently drop the right buttock as you push the left thigh bone back. Take the right sitting bone to the left heel to make the right waist as long as the left, but keep the left outer hip firmed in. And remember, you'll find that action more easily if you press down through your left big toe mound. Inhale, bring the right leg back to center. Take your hands to your hips, hold the breath, hold the leg up for a breath, and then release back to Tadasana. Okay. Now make your way to the front of your mat. Stand in Tadasana, and an important pair of actions. As you press down through your big toe mounds, pull up with your inner arches. Now travel your attention to your pelvis. Vashistasana is sometimes called side plank. That's the anglicization of the name. And in plank, we want to be compact at the center. There's a pair of actions from Tadasana that will translate into plank. Press your femurs, your thigh bones back as you direct your tailbone towards your heels. Now in Tadasana, we maintain the natural curve of the lower back. In plank, you'll slightly emphasize the heaviness of your tailbone. For now, we'll take a vinyasa. Inhale, sweep your arms out to the side and up. Exhale, fold, hinging at your hips. Inhale, reach your heart forward, lengthen the front body. Exhale, step to plank and pause. In plank, find that pair of actions from Tadasana. Engaging the quadriceps, lift the tops of your thighs, drop your tailbone heavily. Be compact at your center. Now step your feet an inch closer to each other. You won't need to move them again. Roll onto the left outer foot and the left hand, stack your ankles, then take your right hand to the ceiling. Now reach for the floor with the left big toe mound. Kristen's already done that. It's as if you're trying to make the left foot flat. Rooting down through the left big toe mound will help you to engage the left outer hip so that your pose doesn't sag down towards the floor. Now this is the basic building block. There's an easier version of the pose, which I'll have Kristen show. Then she'll come out of the pose and we'll do the harder variation. In the modification, put the top foot in front of the bottom knee. Keep reaching for the floor with the bottom big toe mound to activate the bottom hip. Take an inhale here, and then exhale, come to all fours. And sit back on your heels. Now from child's pose, roll up one more time. Make your way into downward facing. From downward facing, inhale, rock forward to plank. Remember, long and straight like a plank of wood, tops of thighs lifting, tailbone heavy. Step your feet an inch closer to each other. Roll onto the outer border of your left foot, come onto your left hand, stack your ankles, take your right hand back to the ceiling. So here we are in the basic setup. Now we'll look at the harder variation, which is actually the classical version of the pose. Externally rotate the right thigh, toes pointing straight up. Inhale, sweep the right leg up. Can you hook onto your right big toe? Once you've done so, recommit to pushing down with the left big toe mound. Recommit to rooting down with your left hand and going straight up out of that action. Take an inhale here, and then exhale, release. Come to plank. Press back to downward facing. Now we're only doing one side so you can see the progression of the postures and how similar the shapes are. But if you were doing both sides, I recommend that you skip the vinyasa until you've done both sides. Otherwise, it's quite asymmetrical on the shoulders. Now, I also want to show one more thing. If you don't have quite the mobility that Kristen had, if when you sweep the leg up, you can't hook onto the toe, there's actually a very valuable way to work, which is on the breath. Inhale, rock to plank. Step your feet an inch closer to each other. Roll onto the outer border of the left foot, stack the ankles beyond the left hand, take the right hand straight up. Externally rotate the right thigh. Inhale, sweep up as far as you can. Exhale, release. 2 more times. Inhale, sweep up. Exhale, release. Last time, inhale up. Exhale, release. Come to plank. Press straight back to Adho Mukha. Inhale here. Exhale, child's pose. Now, Kristen made that look quite easy, but in many ways, it's more challenging in a good way to be moving on the breath that way. Every time you inhale, sweep your leg up, you're challenging your stability, you're challenging your core stabilizers, particularly gluteus medius, that muscle of the bottom hip that we're contracting to create stability at the center. So don't feel that just because you can't hook onto your big toe, there isn't value in trying to. You'll find that this work will really cultivate a kind of inner core strength and stability at the center that will have benefit throughout your practice. Namaste.